European governments have started to roll out winter aid packages aimed at keeping Ukraine's war running through the cold months. In November this year alone, the EU dispersed 4.1 billion euros as part of a nearly 6 billion euro tranche to address Kyiv's 2025 financial needs, including budget support for public salaries and operations. Germany supplemented this with an additional 150 million euros while outlining over 11.5 billion euros in aid for 2026, primarily for military systems such as air defenses. But not everyone is happy with this gracious grants. Many are asking why Europe's working class is being pushed to fund a war that is not theirs. Taxes, higher energy bills, and strained public services underwrite munitions, air defenses, and reconstruction in Ukraine, while households face falling real incomes and politicians offer strategic arguments that seldom translate into relief.
We are here today in front of the Romanian government headquarters to protest against inflation, rising prices, decline in purchasing power, and the lack of support measures for the local auto industry.
Since Russia's invasion in 2022, the EU and its member states have pledged nearly 178 billion euros in support to Ukraine, with bilateral contributions from national budgets totaling 140 billion euros. Germany accounts for 32 billion euros of this, including significant military transfers. France, 14 billion euros, focused on loans and missile systems, and Poland, 12 billion euros, drawn from stockpiles of artillery and aircraft. While framed as an investment in collective defense, this volume of aid, equivalent to 1.5% of the EU's annual GDP, prompts scrutiny. Does it truly advance European interests, or does it merely prolong a stalemate at the expense of contributors' fiscal health? Compounding concerns is the persistent issue of corruption within Ukraine's aid management, which undermines the efficacy of these transfers. A recent scandal at Ukraine's nuclear operator revealed a $100 million scheme involving kickbacks on energy contracts, with proceeds allegedly funneled to allies of President Zelenskyy, including a deputy prime minister.
Corruption is a negative thing, because while we have a war going on, we need to somehow unite. Put all the money into defense. On the contrary, money is being stolen and some kind of business is made from it. So this is very wrong.
The National Anti-Corruption Bureau's probe led to the suspension of the justice minister and arrests, yet only 15% of diverted funds have been recovered, highlighting systemic vulnerabilities. Italian Deputy Prime Minister Salvini has publicly warned that such aid risks fueling graft, echoing broader doubts about accountability. With 12% of military budgets potentially at risk from opaque procurement, as noted by watchdogs, European taxpayers must confront an uncomfortable reality. Portions of their contributions may enrich a select few rather than fortify defenses. This external focus exacts a measurable toll on Europe's middle class, whose taxes and levies sustain the aid stream. To finance these commitments, governments have increased income taxes by up to 2% and VAT by 1% in key nations like Germany and France, while elevating defense spending 25% and curtailing 15 billion euros in domestic infrastructure investments. Inflation, lingering at 4.8% in 2025 due to war-related disruptions, outpaces 3% wage growth, reducing household purchasing power by approximately 1,000 euros annually. In Germany, the auto sector has eliminated 125,000 jobs amid 20% rises in steel costs from sanctions, with small businesses, employing 65% of the workforce, experiencing 18% insolvency rates. Refugee integration demands an additional 18 billion euros, prompting 3% local tax hikes in Poland and 10% cuts to education funding. Net household wealth has declined 5%, pushing 2.5 million into fuel poverty, where energy consumes 12% of income. Projections indicate a 1.5% annual GDP drag through 2028, further eroding savings by 6% and home equity by 4%. Such sacrifices demand reevaluation. These funds could instead bolster European priorities, insulating homes against rising energy prices, expanding healthcare access, or revitalizing industries battered by supply shocks. Polls reveal growing unease, with support for aid levels fraying as 50% favor arms shipments, but a majority prioritize domestic relief. Should European taxpayers shoulder prolonged financing for a foreign conflict when living standards at home are under strain? The answer depends on strategic judgments about security risk, the cost of potential escalation, and the political will to sustain rigorous oversight. What is clear is the mechanics. National budget commitments, EU pooled funds, and multilateral loans are converting middle-class tax contributions into ammunition, grid repairs, and salaries for a distant frontline. Whether voters accept that conversion as necessary insurance or reject it as misallocated spending will determine the political sustainability of future rounds of support.